I arrived at my younger brother Danny's engagement party expecting champagne, cake, and the usual family celebration. The country club was decorated beautifully, and I was genuinely happy for him and his fiancée, Christina. Then my parents took the stage to make an announcement. They were gifting the couple an apartment. Photos flashed on the projector screen. My renovated kitchen, my custom bathroom tiles, my built-in bookshelves. They were giving away my apartment. The one I'd spent $47,000 renovating. I stood there frozen, my champagne glass trembling in my hand. Around me, guests congratulated Danny and Christina, completely unaware that they were celebrating the theft of my home. I watched photo after photo of my apartment flash across the screen. The marble countertops I'd hand-selected, the Portuguese tiles I'd spent weeks choosing, the custom woodwork I'd designed myself. I couldn't breathe. This had to be a mistake. Some terrible misunderstanding. I found my parents in the hallway outside the ballroom. My father Frank was checking his phone, and my mother Margaret was touching up her lipstick. "Mom, Dad," I said, my voice shaking. "There's been a mistake with the photos. Those are pictures of my apartment." My father looked up from his phone, utterly calm. "No mistake, Beryl. We're giving them your place. You need to move out." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What? You can't be serious. That's my apartment. I bought it." My mother snapped her compact shut and turned to me with that expression I knew too well. The one that said I was being difficult. "Danny is getting married and starting a family. He needs stability. You're single and can live anywhere." "I live there," I said, my voice rising. "I own that apartment. I bought it 3 years ago with my own money from my business." My father's expression hardened. "You bought it with our help. Remember the $15,000 we loaned you for the down payment?" Of course I remembered. I'd been 29 years old, and I was just short of having enough for the down payment on my dream apartment. My parents had offered to loan me the money, and I'd been paying them back $500 every single month for 3 years. "I've been paying you back," I said. "I only owe you $500. One more payment and we're done." My father pulled out a folded document from his jacket pocket. "You signed a contract, Beryl. Did you read the fine print?" My stomach dropped. "What fine print?" "If you ever failed to make your monthly repayment, the apartment would revert to our ownership. You missed last month's payment." "That's impossible," I said. "I've never missed a payment. I have bank statements proving it." "We sent the payment request to your email," my mother said. "You never responded. After 30 days of no response, you defaulted." My mind raced back. Last month. 6 weeks ago, I'd rebranded my graphic design business and changed my primary email address. I'd updated all my important contacts, but I hadn't thought about my parents. They rarely emailed me. We usually texted. "You sent it to my old email address," I whispered, the realization hitting me. "We sent it to the email address on file," my father said coldly. "The one listed in the loan agreement. Your failure to maintain current contact information isn't our problem." I stared at him, understanding flooding through me. "You did this on purpose. You knew I'd changed my email. You sent it there knowing I wouldn't see it." My mother had the decency to look away, but my father met my eyes without flinching. "The contract is legally binding. The apartment is now ours to do with as we please, and we've decided to give it to Danny. He needs it more than you do." "I spent $47,000 renovating that apartment," I said, my voice breaking. "Every penny I'd saved. The kitchen, the bathroom, the custom built-ins, everything." "That's unfortunate," my father said. "But you made improvements to a property with an outstanding loan. You defaulted on that loan. The improvements stay with the property." I looked at my mother, desperately hoping for some compassion, some acknowledgement that this was wrong. She finally met my eyes. "Beryl, honey, you have to understand. Danny is settling down. He's building a life. You've always been so independent. You'll figure something out. You always do." The casual dismissal of my entire life, my home, my financial devastation, it was too much. Behind us, I could hear the party continuing. People were laughing. A champagne cork popped. Someone was making a toast. "You can't do this," I said weakly. My father folded the document and put it back in his pocket. "It's already done. The apartment transferred to our name this morning. We're giving it to Danny and Christina as their engagement present. You have until the end of the week to remove your belongings." He walked past me back into the ballroom. My mother paused, touched my arm gently, and said, "Try to be happy for your brother, sweetheart. This is his special day." Then she followed my father, leaving me alone in the hallway, my entire world collapsing around me. I went home that night in a daze. I walked through my apartment like I was seeing it for the first time. Every detail represented hours of work, careful decisions, and my hard-earned money. The kitchen with its white marble countertops and custom cabinetry had cost $18,000. The bathroom with its imported Portuguese tiles and rainfall shower had been another $12,000. The living room built-ins, designed to perfectly fit my book collection and display my art, had been $9,000. All of it gone. At 2 a.m, my phone buzzed with a text from Danny. "Move out immediately. You have 2 days. Christina wants to start decorating." I read it 3 times, each time hoping the words would change. There was no acknowledgement that this had been my home, no apology, no recognition of what I was losing, just a cold demand to disappear so his fiancée could play house in the apartment I'd lovingly restored. I didn't sleep that night. At dawn, I called my lawyer, Patricia. She'd handled the original purchase of my apartment 3 years ago. I gathered every document I had: the purchase agreement, the loan paperwork from my parents, my bank statements, showing every single $500 payment I'd made on time for 3 years. Patricia's office smelled like coffee and old books. She sat across from me, reading through the documents with a furrowed brow. I watched her face, hoping for some sign that this was fixable. "You did make every payment on time," she said finally. "Your bank statements prove it. So I can fight this?" Patricia set down the loan agreement and looked at me with sympathy I didn't want to see. "Beryl, let me ask you something. Did you ever formally update your email address with your parents in writing?" "I don't know. We're family. We just text usually. But for the loan, for official business regarding the loan, did you ever provide them with your new email address in writing?" I thought back. No, I didn't think I needed to. Patricia pointed to a clause in the loan agreement. "The payment request must be sent to the borrower's primary email of record. You never updated your email of record. Your old email was still technically your official contact for this loan." She flipped to another page. "And here's the problem. It says failure to respond to a payment request within 30 days constitutes default and voluntary surrender of the property." "Voluntary?" I said. "There's nothing voluntary about this. Legally, your lack of response is considered voluntary," Patricia said gently. "Your parents structured this contract very carefully. They made sure every clause would hold up in court. But I can sue them, right? I can prove this was deliberate manipulation." Patricia was quiet for a moment. "You could try. But proving deliberate manipulation is extremely difficult. They'll say they sent the request to the email address on file. That's what the contract required them to do. A judge will likely say it was your responsibility to keep your contact information current." "What about my renovations?" I asked desperately. $47,000. They can't just keep all that." Patricia's expression told me the answer before she spoke. "Because you made improvements to a property with an outstanding loan, and because you defaulted, you have no legal claim to reimbursement for renovations. The improvements become part of the property. They can keep the apartment and all your renovations." I felt like I was drowning. So I lose everything? My home, my money, everything I worked for? "I'm sorry, Beryl. They can keep the apartment and all your improvements. You'll lose everything. The contract is airtight." I left Patricia's office feeling numb. 2 days. Danny had given me 2 days to pack up 3 years of my life and walk away from $50,000, 47 in renovations, and 3 in payments to my parents. My own parents had stolen my home. I spent the next day packing. Every item I put in a box felt like admitting defeat. Danny texted me every few hours. One day left. Have you started packing? Christina is hiring movers for Saturday. I had nowhere to go. My friend Amanda offered her basement temporarily. I rented a small storage unit for my furniture. It was all I could afford. My savings were gone, spent on renovations that now belonged to my brother. Friday morning, moving day. Danny and Christina showed up early with their movers. I was still packing my bedroom when I heard them walk in. "We need to start measuring for new furniture," Christina announced loudly, as if I wasn't even there. I came out of the bedroom to find them walking through my apartment, Christina holding a clipboard and taking notes. She looked at my custom curtains and wrinkled her nose. "These are hideous. We'll need to replace them immediately." She ran her hand along the kitchen counter. "The marble is nice, but the backsplash has to go. Too busy." I bit my tongue, watching her dismiss thousands of dollars of my work as inadequate. Danny said nothing. He just followed her around, nodding at everything she said. As I removed items from the living room, Christina followed me with her clipboard. When I took down my custom-made curtains, she objected. "Those stay with the apartment," she said. "I had them custom-made," I replied. "They're mine." "They're window treatments," Danny said, stepping forward. "They're fixtures. They stay." We argued for 20 minutes. Finally, Danny demanded I leave behind the curtains, $700, the dining room light fixture, a vintage piece I'd found at an estate sale for $800, and an antique mirror from my bedroom, $500. "These are fixtures," he insisted. "They came with the property." "I bought them," I said. "I have receipts." "Fixtures stay," Christina said firmly. "That's standard in real estate." I was too exhausted to fight anymore. I left them behind. What was another $2,000 on top of everything else I'd lost? I was loading the last boxes into the moving truck when I heard Danny on the phone in the hallway. The door to the apartment was open, and his voice carried. "Yeah, Craig, everything's on schedule," Danny said. "Once we're married, we'll live here for 6 months to satisfy the gift requirement, then we're selling it. You estimated we'd clear $270,000 after closing costs, right? And we split it 60-40 like we agreed?" I froze, a box of books in my arms. "The renovations really boosted the value," Danny continued. "My sister did us a huge favor spending all that money on upgrades. Makes the flip so much easier." He laughed. It was a sound I'd heard my whole life, but now it sounded cruel. "Nah, she has no idea. She thinks we're actually going to live here. She's moving out today, all heartbroken. It's honestly kind of pathetic." I set the box down carefully, my hands shaking with rage. This was never about Danny needing a home for his new family. This was a real estate scheme. He was going to live in my apartment for 6 months, just long enough to make the gift look legitimate, then sell it and pocket over $160,000 as his share of the profit. My parents had helped him steal my apartment so he could flip it for cash. I finished loading the truck in silence. Danny came back inside, smiling at Christina, playing the excited fiancé. He looked at me without a trace of guilt. "All done?" he asked. "Great. Leave the keys on the counter." I placed my keys on the marble countertop I'd chosen, paid for, and would never see again. I walked out of my apartment for what I thought was the last time, the sound of Christina's voice planning renovations to my renovations echoing behind me. That night, in Amanda's basement, I lay on an air mattress, surrounded by boxes, and stared at the ceiling. My brother wasn't just taking my home, he was profiting from my loss. And my parents had helped him do it. I spent the weekend at Amanda's feeling hollow. But on Sunday night, as I was unpacking boxes, I found my renovation files. All the contracts, receipts, permits, and inspection reports from when I'd first bought the apartment. I pulled out the original inspection report, and I remembered. Before I renovated, the apartment had serious problems. The electrical wiring was outdated and flagged as a fire hazard. The pipes were old galvanized metal that the inspector said would fail within 5 years. There were foundation cracks and mold behind the bathroom walls. I'd spent $28,000 of my $47,000 budget fixing those critical issues. The remaining $19,000 had gone to the cosmetic improvements, the pretty things that made the apartment beautiful. I spread out all my receipts and permits. Then I called Marcus, the contractor who'd done my renovations. "Marcus, it's Beryl. I need to ask you something about the work you did on my apartment." We met for coffee Monday morning. I explained what had happened. Marcus listened, his expression growing darker. "That's messed up," he said. "I'm sorry, Beryl." "Here's my question," I said. "When we did the renovations, what items did I purchase that are legally removable? Not the structural stuff, but the fixtures and appliances?" Marcus thought about it. "The appliances are definitely yours. You bought those separately. The light fixtures you purchased. The cabinet doors, those were custom-made to your specifications with your money. The hardware, all the handles and knobs. The bathroom fixtures, the fancy shower head and faucets. The removable backsplash tiles in the kitchen. If I wanted to remove those items, legally, could I? If you own them, and they're removable without damaging the structure? Yeah. Legally, those are your property." I felt something stir inside me for the first time in days. Not quite hope, but something close to it. "Would you help me?" I asked. "I'll pay you." Marcus studied me for a moment. "When?" "Tomorrow. They're both at work during the day." Marcus nodded slowly. "I'll bring my crew." Tuesday morning, I met Marcus and his team at my apartment. I still had my keys. Danny hadn't bothered to change the locks yet. We had every legal right to be there. These items belonged to me. I'd purchased them with my money. For 6 hours, we worked. We removed the stainless steel refrigerator, the gas range, the dishwasher, the microwave. We unscrewed every light fixture from every room. We carefully removed the custom cabinet doors I'd had made. We took down the removable backsplash tiles. We removed all the hardware. We uninstalled the rainfall shower head and the custom bathroom faucets. With each item we removed, I felt a small piece of my dignity return. They could take the apartment, but I'd take back everything I could. We were loading the last items into Marcus's truck when my phone rang. It was Patricia. "Beryl, where are you right now?" Her voice was panicked. "I'm at the apartment. Well, my old apartment. Why? Stop whatever you're doing immediately. Your father filed a restraining order this morning claiming you threatened to vandalize the property. A judge granted a temporary order. You're not allowed to enter the apartment or remove anything. If you're there now, you're violating a court order." My blood went cold. "We're just finishing up. Beryl, listen to me very carefully. Leave right now. If the police find you there, you will be arrested." I looked around at the apartment. Empty cabinet frames. Spaces where appliances had been. Holes in the walls where light fixtures had hung. Exposed wiring. "It's too late," I said. "We already did it." "Oh God," Patricia whispered. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Marcus and his crew looked at me, understanding dawning on their faces. "Go," I told them. "Get the truck out of here." "We're not leaving you," Marcus said. The sirens stopped outside the building. Footsteps pounded up the stairs. Danny burst through the apartment door, followed by Christina, my parents, and 2 police officers. Danny's face went red as he looked around the gutted apartment. "What did you do? You destroyed it. You crazy witch." Christina started crying. "Our apartment! She ruined everything." My father held up papers, showing them to the police officers. "I filed a restraining order this morning. She violated it. She threatened to vandalize the property, and look what she's done." "I didn't threaten anything," I said. "These items belong to me. I purchased them. I have receipts." "She's vandalizing our property," Danny shouted. "Arrest her." The police officers looked at the apartment, at the empty spaces where appliances had been, at the exposed wiring, at Marcus and his crew standing uncertainly by their tools. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us," one officer said to me. "I didn't do anything illegal," I said. These are my possessions. I removed my own property. My father showed the officers his restraining order. This was filed at 8 this morning. She's been here all day. She violated a court order. The officer looked at me with something like pity. I'm sorry, ma'am, but you're under arrest for violating a restraining order. They put handcuffs on me, in front of my parents, in front of my brother, in the apartment I'd lovingly restored, now gutted and empty. Danny stood there looking triumphant. You did this to yourself, Beryl. You couldn't just let me be happy. As they led me out, I saw my mother turn away, unable to watch. But my father met my eyes, and for a brief moment, I saw satisfaction there. He'd planned this. He'd filed the restraining order before I'd even arrived, knowing what I'd do. He'd set a trap, and I'd walked right into it. I'd tried to take back what was mine, and now I was going to jail. I spent 8 hours at the police station before Patricia arranged bail. They charged me with criminal contempt and malicious property damage. The officer processing my paperwork told me I could face up to a year in jail. By the next morning, the story had hit local news. Woman arrested for vandalizing brother's engagement gift. The article painted me as jealous and unstable, unable to accept my brother's happiness. My parents had given interviews describing me as vindictive and destructive. They showed photos of the destroyed apartment, making it look like I'd gone on a rampage. Danny posted on social media with photos of the gutted kitchen. My psycho sister destroyed the apartment my parents gave us as an engagement gift because she's jealous I'm getting married. Some people can't stand to see others happy. His post got 2,000 shares. The comments were brutal. People who didn't know me called me terrible names. They said I deserved jail time. They said my parents should disown me. My graphic design clients started canceling contracts, 5 of them in 2 days. They didn't want to work with someone unstable. My business income dropped by 70%. I was losing everything. My home was gone. My savings were gone. My business was dying. My reputation was destroyed. And now I might go to jail. Patricia laid out my options. Your father's restraining order was filed at 8 in the morning. You entered the apartment at 10. The order was valid, and you violated it. The judge believed your father's claim that you sent threatening texts. I never sent threatening texts, I said. He submitted screenshots as evidence. They look legitimate. Let me see them. Patricia showed me printouts. Text messages supposedly from my number to my father, saying things like, I'll make Danny regret this, and that apartment is mine, and I'll do whatever it takes to prove it. I never sent these, I said. These are fake. They look real, Beryl. The phone number matches yours. The timestamps are consistent. He manipulated them somehow. Photo editing. Proving that will be difficult and expensive. You're already looking at $12,000 in legal fees. Your best option is to take a plea deal. Admit to lesser charges. Pay a fine. Do community service. Move on with your life. I sat in Patricia's office, surrounded by legal documents that proved how thoroughly my family had destroyed me. I'd spent $59,000 total, 47 on renovations, 12 on legal fees. I had nothing to show for any of it. I need to think about it, I told Patricia. That night, I sat in Amanda's basement, scrolling through news articles about myself. The comments were the worst part. Strangers who'd never met me were certain I was a terrible person. Some of them said I deserved whatever I got. A few even said my parents should have dealt with me years ago. I was considering just giving up, taking the plea deal, accepting that my family had won, when I received a Facebook message from someone named Helen Carter. I saw the news story about you and Danny. I'm Danny's ex-girlfriend. We dated for 4 years. I have information you need. Can we meet? I stared at the message. Why would Danny's ex-girlfriend contact me? It could be a trap. Another way for Danny to make me look worse. But what did I have to lose at this point? We agreed to meet at a coffee shop the next morning. Helen was 31, with tired eyes that suggested she'd been through something difficult. She sat across from me, holding her coffee cup with both hands like she needed the warmth. Thank you for meeting me, she said. I wasn't sure you would. "Why did you contact me?" I asked. Helen took a deep breath. "Because I've been where you are. Danny destroyed my life too." For the next hour, Helen told me her story. She and Danny had dated for 4 years. They'd been engaged. They were planning their wedding when Helen's grandmother died and left Helen a house in Portland. It was worth about $200,000. Helen was going to sell it and use the money for their future. Danny convinced her to put the house in both their names for tax purposes. Helen trusted him. They were about to be married. A month after Helen added Danny to the deed, he broke off the engagement. He claimed Helen was too controlling, too demanding, that he couldn't see a future with her. Then, Danny forced a sale of the house. Because he was on the deed, he had the legal right. He took half the proceeds, $93,000, and disappeared from Helen's life. "He's a con artist," Helen said. "He targets women with assets. He gets close to them, gains their trust, and then takes everything he can. I've spent the last year trying to recover from what he did to me." She pulled out her phone and showed me documents. Text messages where Danny explicitly discussed his plan to get the house sold and take my half. Emails between Danny and a lawyer about forcing the sale. Screenshots of Danny bragging to friends about his payout. "I did research after what he did to me," Helen said. "Christina, his new fiancée? Her family owns a commercial real estate company worth millions. Danny isn't marrying her because he loves her. He's marrying her to get access to her family's money." I thought about the phone call I'd overheard. Danny planning to flip my apartment for profit. His deal with someone named Craig to split the proceeds. "He conned my parents into giving him my apartment," I said. "He's going to sell it and keep the money." Helen nodded. "That sounds exactly like him. And after he's done with your apartment, he'll move on to Christina. He'll convince her family to invest in some business opportunity. Or he'll get access to their company finances. And then he'll find a way to take whatever he can and disappear." I felt something shift inside me. This was bigger than my apartment. This was bigger than what Danny had done to me. He was a predator, and Christina was his next victim. "We have to stop him," I said. Helen looked at me with a mixture of hope and fear. I tried. No one believed me. Everyone thought I was just a bitter ex. My own lawyer said I didn't have a case because I voluntarily put Danny on the deed. "Then we make Christina believe us," I said. "We show her who she's really marrying." For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than despair. I felt purpose. Danny had taken everything from me, but maybe I could still save someone else from the same fate. And maybe, just maybe, I could still find a way to expose the truth. Over the next 2 days, Helen and I put together everything we had. All her documentation from her relationship with Danny. All my evidence of the apartment scheme. We created a clear timeline, showing Danny's pattern of financial exploitation. Then I did something terrifying. I contacted Christina through Instagram. "Please meet me for coffee. 30 minutes. If you still hate me after, I'll never contact you again. But there are things about Danny you need to know." Christina replied an hour later. "This better not be some game. I'll meet you, but if you try anything, I'm calling the police." We met at a Starbucks across town. Christina arrived looking defensive, her arms crossed. Then she saw Helen, and confusion crossed her face. "Who's this?" Christina asked. "I'm Helen Carter," Helen said. "I was engaged to Danny 2 years ago." Christina sat down slowly. "Danny never mentioned you." "I'm not surprised," Helen said. For the next hour, we showed Christina everything. Helen's documents proving Danny had conned her out of $93,000. The timeline of how he'd manipulated his way onto the deed of her house, then forced a sale and took half. My evidence that the apartment scheme was designed to let Danny flip the property for profit. I told Christina about the phone call I'd overheard. Danny's plan to live in the apartment for 6 months, just long enough to make it look legitimate, then sell it and split the profits with his investor friend Craig. "I'm not trying to ruin your engagement," I said. "I'm trying to save you from what he did to me and to Helen." Christina's hands were shaking as she looked through the documents. Danny's been asking me to talk to my parents about investing in a business opportunity with him. He wants $200,000. Helen and I exchanged looks. It was exactly what we'd suspected. If you give him that money, Helen said gently, you'll never see it again. And as soon as he has it, he'll find a reason to leave you. Christina's eyes filled with tears. I love him. You could be lying. You could have made all this up. Test him, I said. Tell him your parents said no to the investment. See how he reacts. Tell him you're having financial troubles. Watch how his attitude toward you changes. Look for the documents in his apartment. He keeps records, spreadsheets, calculations, research. Christina was silent for a long moment, staring at the papers spread across the table. If this is true, she said finally, I'll help you. But if you're lying to break us up, I'll testify against you in court. You're already facing criminal charges. I can make things worse for you. I understand, I said. I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to trust what you see with your own eyes. Over the next week, Christina investigated. She tested Danny exactly as we'd suggested. When she told him her parents said no to the investment, he became cold and distant. When she pretended to have financial troubles, his interest in her noticeably decreased. He stopped texting as frequently. He canceled 2 date nights. Then Christina searched Danny's apartment while he was at work. She found everything. Spreadsheets calculating the profit from selling my apartment. Research on her family's company and their net worth. Notes about accelerating the timeline. A contract with someone named Craig about splitting the proceeds from an apartment sale 60-40. She called me, crying. It's all true. Everything you said. He doesn't love me. He's using me. I'm so sorry, I said. And I meant it. I knew exactly how she felt. What do we do now? Christina asked. Helen, Christina, and I met the next day and made a plan. We would expose Danny publicly. We'd show everyone, including my parents, exactly what kind of person he was. We needed to prove the apartment scheme, Danny's pattern of cons, and my father's manipulation of evidence for the restraining order. Christina would be crucial. She had access to Danny, his apartment, his plans. She agreed to tell Danny her parents had changed their minds. They'd invest $300,000 in his business opportunity, but they wanted to meet him formally and see a proper business plan. Christina set up a dinner at an upscale restaurant. Her parents, Danny, my parents, Frank and Margaret, everyone would be there to celebrate the investment partnership. It was the perfect opportunity to expose everything. For 3 days we prepared. Helen gathered more evidence from her case. I worked with Patricia to document how my father had manipulated the screenshots of the supposedly threatening texts. Christina recorded her conversations with Danny, catching him discussing his plans for the apartment flip and how he intended to use her family's investment. The dinner was set for Saturday night. We had everything ready. This was it. The moment we'd finally reveal the truth. Then Friday night, Christina called me. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her. I can't do this, she sobbed. I still love him. Maybe there's an explanation for everything. Maybe we're wrong. My heart stopped. Christina, we're not wrong. You saw the evidence. I told him, she said. I told him about our plan. He explained everything. You and Helen are just bitter. You're trying to ruin his life because you're jealous. He said you're manipulating me. No, I whispered. Christina, please. He's calling the police to report you for harassment and stalking, she said. I gave him all the recordings we made, all our text messages planning this. I'm sorry, Beryl. I thought I could do this, but I love him. I can't betray him. She hung up. I sat there in shock, the phone still pressed to my ear. Christina had betrayed us. She'd told Danny everything, given him all our evidence, all the recordings that proved we'd been planning to expose him. An hour later, police showed up at Amanda's house with a warrant. New charges: stalking, harassment, conspiracy to commit fraud. Patricia called, her voice grim. Christina gave Danny recordings of you three planning to publicly humiliate him and make false accusations. He's using them to paint you as a stalker, orchestrating a campaign to destroy his life. They're not false accusations, I said. I know, but now it looks like you're obsessed with ruining him. With these new charges, Beryl, you're looking at serious jail time. The story hit the news the next day. Woman arrested again. Stalking charges added to vandalism case. Danny and Christina released a joint statement about harassment from unstable family members who can't accept our happiness. My remaining clients canceled their contracts. All of them. My business was finished. Helen called me, terrified. Danny's lawyer sent me a cease and desist. They're threatening to sue me for defamation. I can't help you anymore. I'm sorry. I was completely alone, facing multiple criminal charges. My reputation destroyed beyond repair. My business gone. My savings gone. My home gone. $59,000 spent. And I had nothing left but criminal charges and the likelihood of jail time. I'd tried to fight back, and every attempt had made things worse. I'd trusted Christina, and it had been the final, devastating betrayal. I sat in Amanda's basement 3 weeks before my court hearing, looking at my future, prison, a criminal record, my life effectively over at 32 years old. My own family had destroyed me, and there was nothing I could do about it. 2 weeks before my court hearing, I'd given up hope. I sat in Patricia's office discussing plea bargains. Should I plead guilty to reduced charges? How much jail time could we negotiate down to? My life had become about damage control, not justice. Patricia's phone rang during our meeting. She answered, listened for a moment, and her expression changed. Yes, he's welcome to join us. We're in my office now. She hung up and looked at me with something I hadn't seen in her eyes for weeks. Hope. That was Christina's father, Robert. He wants to meet with you. He's coming here with his lawyer and a private investigator. My stomach dropped. This is a trap. He's going to make things worse. He said it's urgent, that he has information you need. 20 minutes later, Robert Carter walked into Patricia's office with a well-dressed lawyer and a middle-aged man carrying a briefcase. Robert looked exhausted but determined. Miss Beryl, he said, sitting across from me. I owe you an apology, and more than that. I said nothing, waiting for whatever new disaster was about to unfold. My daughter told me 3 days ago about your plan to expose Danny, Robert continued. She told me she'd revealed everything to him because she couldn't go through with it. I know, I said quietly. It's why I'm facing new charges. Robert nodded. After she told me, I hired James here. He gestured to the man with the briefcase. I asked him to investigate every claim you made about Danny. Every single one. James opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. I've been investigating Danny for 72 hours straight. Everything Miss Beryl claimed is true. And it's worse than she knew. For the next hour, James presented his findings. He'd found Helen's case, verified every detail. He discovered 2 other women before Helen that Danny had conned in similar ways, women who'd been too ashamed to come forward publicly. He'd traced Danny's real estate scheme with Craig, found the contracts, the profit-sharing agreements, the timeline. He'd found emails between Danny and my father Frank planning the apartment gift 6 months before Danny's engagement was even announced. Messages where they discussed how to manipulate the loan default, how to time the email to my old address, how to make it look legitimate. Your father knew exactly what he was doing, James said. He helped Danny orchestrate the theft of your apartment. They planned it together. James had also analyzed the threatening text messages my father submitted as evidence for the restraining order. He'd hired a digital forensics expert who proved the screenshots were manipulated using basic photo editing software. The metadata in the original images my father filed with the court showed they'd been altered. Your father falsified evidence to obtain that restraining order, James said. That's a crime. Robert leaned forward. Miss Beryl, my daughter didn't betray you. We asked her to tell Danny she'd revealed your plan. It was a test. I stared at him. What? We wanted to see how Danny would react, Robert explained. Christina told him she'd exposed your plan, that she'd given him all the recordings and evidence. We wanted to see what he'd do. And he immediately tried to destroy you, James said. He filed charges. He called the media. He tried to turn your attempt to expose him into evidence that you're a stalker. That reaction told us everything we needed to know about his character. Christina has been gathering evidence for the past 3 days, Robert said. Recording conversations, copying documents, building a case. James pulled out a small recording device. Danny doesn't know she's been recording him. In these recordings, he admits to everything. He pressed play. Danny's voice filled the office, laughing about how easy it was to manipulate my father's ego by positioning everything as helping his son succeed. Talking about his plan to sell the apartment and split the profits. Discussing how he'd use his engagement to Christina to gain access to her family's wealth. In one particularly damning recording, Danny talked about Helen, me, and Christina as marks and investments. He described his strategy for identifying women with assets and gaining their trust. We have hours of recordings, James said. Danny confessed to everything when he thought Christina was on his side. Robert looked at me with something like respect. You tried to save my daughter from making the biggest mistake of her life, even when it cost you everything. I won't forget that. What happens now? I asked, afraid to hope. Patricia spoke up. I'm filing motions to dismiss all charges against you. With this evidence, the prosecution won't have a case. The restraining order was obtained through fraud. The vandalism charges won't hold because you were removing your own property. The stalking charges are baseless. And Danny? I asked. Robert's expression hardened. I arranged a meeting. Danny thinks he's coming to discuss the investment. Instead, he's walking into a room with Christina, myself, my lawyer, your parents, and a detective from the fraud division. The meeting happened 2 days later. I wasn't there, but Robert called me immediately after to tell me what happened. They'd played the recordings, all of them. Danny's voice admitting to the apartment scheme, the con, his plans for Christina's family money, his dismissal of me as pathetic for believing the apartment gift was about family. My father Frank had gone pale as he realized Danny had manipulated him too, used his favoritism toward his son to facilitate a crime. My mother had started crying. Christina had confronted Danny directly, asking him if he'd ever loved her at all. Danny, caught, had tried to explain, to minimize, to charm his way out of it, but the evidence was overwhelming. The detective arrested Danny on the spot. Fraud, conspiracy, theft by deception. He was charged with multiple counts related to his pattern of cons. The district attorney was building a case using Helen's experience, my situation, and evidence of at least 2 other victims. Patricia filed emergency motions with the evidence James had gathered. Within a week, a judge dismissed all charges against me. The judge stated clearly that the restraining order had been obtained through fraudulent evidence, and that I had been within my legal rights to remove my own property. The apartment ownership was challenged. Patricia argued that the loan default had been orchestrated through deliberate fraud, making the ownership transfer invalid. Danny, facing serious criminal charges, agreed to a settlement. He signed the apartment back to me, in exchange for slightly reduced charges on his fraud case. My father and mother, faced with evidence of their role in Danny's scheme, didn't contest it. I think they were too ashamed. But I wasn't done. Patricia negotiated further. My parents had to pay me $50,000, $47,000 to reimburse my renovation costs, $3,000 for my completed loan payments, and additional compensation for legal fees and lost business income. It took most of their savings, but they paid it. Danny was convicted of fraud and sentenced to 18 months in prison. Helen filed a civil suit and won a judgment for her share of the house proceeds plus damages. Christina came to see me after everything settled. We met at the same coffee shop where this had all started. "I'm sorry I made you think I betrayed you," she said. "My father insisted we test Danny that way. I wanted to tell you, but he said it had to be real, that you had to really believe I'd turned on you for Danny to believe it too." "It worked," I said. "It was awful, but it worked." "You saved me," Christina said, her eyes filling with tears. "You lost everything, and you still tried to save me. Why?" Because I know what it feels like to be betrayed by someone you trust, I said. I couldn't let him do to you what he did to me. We became friends after that. Not close friends, but friends nonetheless. The kind of friendship built on shared trauma and mutual respect. My parents tried to reconcile. They came to the apartment one evening, looking smaller somehow, older. We failed you, my father said. It was the first time I'd ever heard him admit to being wrong. Danny told us you were irresponsible with money, that you didn't appreciate what we'd given you, that you needed to learn responsibility. I believed him because it was easier than admitting I favored your brother. My mother cried. We're so sorry, sweetheart. We should have trusted you. We should have protected you. We're your parents, and we betrayed you. I let them apologize. I even accepted it, in a way. But I also set boundaries. I need time, I told them. What you did, helping Danny steal my home, it broke something. I don't know if I can trust you again. Maybe someday, but not now. They nodded, understanding they'd damaged our relationship, perhaps beyond repair. I moved back into my apartment a month later. The appliances were reinstalled. The light fixtures were back. Everything I'd taken was returned to its proper place. It looked exactly as it had before, but it felt different now. It felt like something I'd fought for and won. My business slowly recovered. The true story came out in the media. Woman falsely accused, vindicated, after brother's fraud exposed. My clients came back. New clients hired me, impressed by my resilience. Within 6 months, my business was stronger than it had been before. I used my experience to help others. I started speaking at community centers about family financial abuse. I helped people recognize the warning signs of financial manipulation. I turned my trauma into purpose. One evening, I sat in my living room with Amanda, who'd supported me through everything. We were drinking wine and looking out at the city lights. Was it worth it? Amanda asked. All that fighting? I thought about everything I'd been through. The betrayal, the arrests, the public humiliation, the moment I'd thought I'd lost everything forever. Then I thought about getting my home back, about exposing Danny, about saving Christina, about learning who I really was when everything was stripped away. Every single moment, I said, because I didn't just fight for an apartment. I fought for my right to be treated with respect. I fought for my dignity, and I won. Amanda raised her wine glass. To dignity, I echoed. I learned something important through all of this. I learned that sometimes the people who should protect you will betray you. Sometimes your own family will choose convenience over your well-being. Sometimes standing up for yourself will make things worse before they get better. But I also learned that you have to stand up anyway. Because your worth isn't determined by whether your family values you. It's determined by whether you value yourself. And when you value yourself, you don't accept betrayal quietly. You fight back, even when it's hard, even when you're alone, even when everyone says you're wrong. Justice isn't always quick. Truth doesn't always surface easily. But if you don't give up, if you keep fighting for what's right, eventually the truth comes out. Eventually, people see who's really telling the truth and who's been lying all along. I got my home back. I got my money back. I got my dignity back. But more than that, I got myself back. The part of me that knew I deserved better. The part that refused to be a victim. The part that fought back, even when fighting seemed impossible. My apartment is mine now, truly mine, in a way it never was before. Every room represents not just the money I spent renovating it, but the battle I fought to keep it. When I look at my custom kitchen, I don't just see beautiful marble countertops. I see proof that I don't give up. When I see my renovated bathroom, I see evidence that I'm stronger than the people who tried to break me. And that's worth more than any amount of money. To everyone listening to my story, I want you to know something. If your family betrays you, if people you trust steal from you, if you find yourself alone in a fight that seems impossible to win, don't give up. Document everything. Find allies. Trust the truth. even when no one else does. Fight for yourself with everything you have, because you deserve respect, you deserve justice, and you deserve to win. Have you ever experienced betrayal from family members? How did you handle it? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories of resilience and justice. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to stand up for yourself, even against family. Thank you for listening to my journey. I hope it reminds you that you're stronger than you think, and that fighting for yourself is always worth it. Take care of yourselves, and remember, your dignity is worth fighting for.